Set in Valencia, Spain, on August 16, 2017, at around 3:30 in the afternoon, a couple returns to their apartment building. But when they reach the basement parking area, they are horrified to find their neighbor lying dead behind a car, surrounded by blood. The next morning, a senior detective named Eva gets a call from her partner asking her to come to the crime scene. But before she can head there, she has to stop by her daughter Sandra's school because Sandra has attacked another student. The principal gives Eva a warning, but Eva refuses to believe her daughter is entirely at fault. She is convinced there must be a reason behind what happened. After leaving Sandra with a relative, Eva finally heads to the murder scene. Once she arrives, her colleague Bernie explains what they know so far. Besides the blood at the scene, the rear right window of the victim's car has also been shattered. The victim is a man named Arturo, and he was stabbed to death. Bernie's first theory is that it was a car theft gone wrong. He thinks Arturo may have caught the thief in the act, which led to a struggle and ended with Arturo being killed. But Eva, with all her experience, does not buy that theory. To her, this does not look like a robbery at all. Nothing was taken, and a car thief would not normally be carrying a kitchen knife. At most, someone trying to break into a car might have a screwdriver or some simple tool. And cases like this rarely turn into such a brutal killing. Eva believes Arturo got into a fight, the car window broke during the struggle, and then he was stabbed near the back of the vehicle. After that, badly wounded, he tried to crawl toward the front of the car before collapsing and dying there. Around the same time, the police receive word that a woman has been searching all morning for her missing husband. That woman is Arturo's wife, Maria Jesus, better known as Maye, a nurse by profession. Eva goes to meet her, and Maye is with a coworker named Elias. There, Eva delivers the devastating news that Arturo's body has been found. Maye is overwhelmed the moment she hears it. She breaks down in tears, especially because she had only seen Arturo the night before when she got home from work. And this was only the beginning. Welcome to a widow's game. The following morning, Eva and the rest of the team gather for a meeting. Bernie is there, along with another officer named Pedro. As they go over the case, Eva starts by laying out Arturo's background and daily routine. Arturo was 36 years old, worked at a highway maintenance center, and had been married to Mai for just 1 year. Maja, meanwhile, was only 26. Every morning, Arturo usually arrived at work by 8:30, and his commute normally took around 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic. That means he would usually leave home around 7:30. But on the day he died, Arturo never showed up to work, and he did not notify anyone. That means he was effectively unaccounted for about 8 hours, from 7:30 in the morning until his body was discovered at 3:30 in the afternoon. Pedro then shares his own theory. He points out that there is a lawyer living in the same apartment building and suggests the killer may have actually been targeting that man but ended up killing Arturo by mistake. Bernie, on the other hand, wants the team to focus on the three most common motives behind murder: drugs, money, and love. Eva agrees that they need to dig into Arturo's personal life. She instructs the team to question everyone close to him, including family members, friends, co-workers, and especially his wife, Mage. She also reminds them to pay close attention to even the smallest details, because in a case like this, those little things can make all the difference. Eva then heads to the forensic department, where the medical examiner shares the autopsy results. Arturo suffered 6 stab wounds, 4 to the chest and 2 directly to the heart. The weapon was likely a large kitchen knife. Because of how brutal the attack was, the examiner believes the killer was most likely a man. Later, back at the station, Bernie is questioning Mai. She explains that their apartment was under renovation and that Arturo had recently argued with one of the construction workers because he was unhappy with the work. But as Eva watches from outside the room, something about Maj feels off. Despite supposedly grieving her husband, she seems unusually distracted, even checking her phone during the interrogation. Not long after, Eva decides to speak with Maya's close friend Sonia, who happens to work at the same place as Arturo. Eva carefully draws out information, and Sonia reveals that Arturo may have been getting close to a coworker. She also describes him as somewhat possessive, often messaging Maje to check on her, especially when he was away visiting his hometown, Gandia. At the same time, Sonia hints that Maje enjoyed her freedom, often spending time out with friends and living a more social lifestyle. Then Sonia casually mentions something important. About 3 months earlier, Maje had met a man named Daniel. That detail immediately catches Eva's attention. She asks Bernie and Pedro to look into Daniel, suspecting that Maher may have been having an affair with him. Eva begins to consider the possibility that Daniel could have killed Arturo to be with Mehi. However, after investigating, Bernie and Pedro come back with new findings. There is no evidence that Arturo was having an affair with any coworker. As for the construction worker who had argued with him, he has a solid alibi. He was out of town at the time of the murder. On August 18th, a funeral is held for Arturo. During the ceremony, May expresses her love for her husband, emphasizing how difficult it is for her, especially since they had only been married for a year. She claims she is not ready to lose him. But soon after, Eva receives new information that changes things. On the night of August 15th, May did not show up for her shift at work, even though she had previously claimed she was working that night. At the same time, investigators go through Arturo's phone and discover messages he sent to Maya about 2 months earlier. In those messages, Arturo admits that their relationship had been growing distant. He also expresses frustration, saying he could no longer tolerate Maya's behavior, which had at times turned aggressive. The next day, Maya asks Eva to come to her home. There, she finally admits that she has been having an affair with Daniel for the past 3 months. She explains that Daniel had no idea she was married. Maya claims she feels deeply guilty about the affair and insists that Arturo's death has nothing to do with it. Then she reveals even more. About a month before her wedding, Arturo had caught her cheating with another man named Andres. At that time, they were already engaged and preparing to get married. The discovery caused a huge conflict, not just between them, but also between both of their families. Mai says she felt completely isolated during that period. Still, Arturo eventually forgave her, and they went through with the marriage. From everything she has gathered so far, Eva begins to form a clear impression of Mehi. She sees her as someone unfaithful, someone who constantly seeks attention from other men. It also raises suspicion that when Arturo's body was found, Maya was already accompanied by her co-worker Elias, who could very well be another one of her affairs. Even so, Eva starts to rule out Daniel as the killer. If Maya is telling the truth, Daniel did not even know she was married, which makes it unlikely that he had any reason to kill Arturo. Eva then reports to her superior, Bernardo, that for now the main suspects are the men Maya has been involved with. To move forward, Eva requests permission to tap Maji's phone. Once the wiretap is approved, Eva and her team begin listening in on Maji's calls for days. This continues for a total of 37 days after Arturo's death. What they hear paints a very different picture of Maja. When she speaks with her family, she sounds deeply grieving, as if she is still mourning her husband. But when she talks to her close friend Sonia, the tone changes completely, and the conversations shift to discussing attractive men. It does not stop there. Maya is also in contact with 3 different men at separate times. With Elias and Andres, her conversations often become intimate and suggestive. Meanwhile, when speaking with Daniel, she finally admits that she was married and that her husband has been killed. After reviewing all of these conversations, Eva becomes certain of one thing. None of the 3 lovers are the actual killer, but Maya is definitely involved. Now the question is who helped her carry it out. Eva, Bernie, and Pedro begin analyzing Maya's behavior more deeply. To them, she appears to enjoy collecting attention from men, thriving on being desired and fought over. Eva also starts to consider Maya's background. She realizes that Maya grew up in a very conservative household, where she may have felt controlled and restricted. Over time, that may have shaped her into someone who seeks freedom in extreme ways as an adult. Not long after, the team receives news of another murder case, where a body has been found inside a suitcase. Bernie heads to the scene right away, while Eva stays behind for a moment to pick up her daughter Sandra. But as Eva drives, she hears breaking news on the radio. The situation has escalated. Bernie and Pedro had chased the suspect into a building, and in the process, Bernie was killed. The news hits Eva hard. She loses not just a colleague, but someone she trusted deeply. 2 months later, on November 8, 2017, the investigation takes another turn. Pedro urgently calls Eva to the station. He has intercepted a call between Maya and a man named Salva. In that call, Salva is asking Maya to keep her distance, saying he does not want things to get worse. This discovery leads into a flashback to a year earlier, when Maya and Arturo were newly married. At first, everything seemed perfect. They looked happy, surrounded by friends and family at a lively celebration. But as time passed, their differences became more obvious. Arturo was a family-oriented man who preferred spending quiet time with close friends and relatives. Mai, on the other hand, still craved excitement. She enjoyed going out, partying, and staying out late. Eventually, she began to feel bored with her life, as if everything had become repetitive and unfulfilling. Meije works as a nurse in 2 places, a nursing home and a hospital. During her shifts at the hospital, she often spends time talking with her co-worker Elias, who is also one of her affairs. Between the stress of work and the boredom she feels in her marriage, Meije starts looking for excitement elsewhere. One night, she even asks Elias to go home with her, but he turns her down because he already has plans. Even so, Mai casually brushes it off, as if he just missed his chance with her. That same weekend, Arturo goes back to his hometown in Gandia. Maya takes the opportunity to lie, claiming she has a work shift, when in reality she is out partying with Sonia. At one point, Andres messages her and invites her over. When Sonia asks who is texting her, Maya lies again, saying it is Arturo checking up on her. She complains about feeling controlled, which shapes how Sonia sees Arturo, believing he is overly possessive based only on Maya's version of events. Later that night, Maya leaves early, but instead of going home, she goes to Andres' place and spends the night with him. The following weekend, she reluctantly joins Arturo on a trip to Gandia for a family birthday. While Arturo and his family enjoy their time together, Mahe seems distant and uninterested. Even during the celebration, she puts on a forced smile, feeling trapped in her marriage, almost like she is living in a cage. On the way back, Arturo mentions that a co-worker of his recently died in an accident. He also talks about how the co-worker's wife will receive a large life insurance payout. As he says this, Maj goes quiet, and something begins to shift in her mind. In the weeks that follow, Maj continues to avoid going back to Gandia by making excuses about work. Then one day she meets Daniel. Their connection escalates quickly, starting with flirtation and leading to a night together at his place. Daniel is everything May seems to want: young, attractive, and wealthy, and she never tells him that she is already married. At one point, when Mahia returns to her apartment, she is shocked to find Arturo still there. He had not gone back to Gandia as planned. Naturally, he becomes suspicious, especially after catching her in a lie about working. Maje quickly deflects, saying she was just out with Sonia to relieve stress and accusing Arturo of being too controlling. Arturo, being patient and trusting, chooses to believe her. The next day at the hospital, Daniel surprises Mahe by picking her up after work. They go out for an expensive dinner, and he even buys her a very costly dress. When she gets home, Maj secretly takes a photo of herself wearing the dress and sends it to him. By the weekend, they are together again. As time goes on, Maje completely stops visiting Gandia with Arturo. He eventually asks her to adjust her work schedule so they can spend more time together. But one day, by pure chance, Arturo sees a message from Daniel on Maje's phone. The content makes everything clear. Instead of feeling guilty, Maje turns the situation around. She accuses Arturo of invading her privacy, even though he only saw the message by accident. This is the moment when Arturo finally reaches his limit. He begins to see Maje for who she really is, someone dishonest, manipulative, and constantly unfaithful. He throws her out and regrets ever marrying her. At that point, he wants a divorce as soon as possible. But Maje refuses. Feeling cornered, she reacts aggressively and even lashes out physically. The situation shocks Arturo, as he is now seeing a side of her he had never fully realized before. Panicked, Maj withdraws and heads to the hospital, where she contacts Andres. She tells him they just had a huge fight and paints herself as the victim, claiming she can no longer tolerate Arturo's behavior, describing him as controlling and harsh. In reality, Maya is not just unfaithful, she is highly manipulative. She craves attention, wants control, and sees herself as someone special. Her behavior strongly reflects narcissistic tendencies. With Andres supporting her emotionally, Maya begins to calm down. But at the same time, her thoughts take a darker turn. She starts hinting that she is fed up, even suggesting that she wants Arturo gone for good. Divorce is not an option in her mind, because it would expose her affairs to her family and everyone around her. She refuses to be seen in a negative light, and because of that, she starts seriously considering eliminating Arturo. However, Andres tries to steer her away from that path. He encourages her to report Arturo instead, suggesting that legal action would be the safer option. It becomes clear that Andres is not willing to go any further. Realizing she needs someone else to carry out her plan, Maj begins thinking of another option. That is when she remembers Salva, a co-worker at the hospital, a man in his 40s who already has a family. Salva has always shown interest in her, but Maj never paid attention before, mainly because she did not find him attractive. Now she sees an opportunity. She approaches him while he is alone, pretending to be emotionally distressed. She cries, shares her story, and speaks badly about Arturo, portraying him as the problem. She thanks Salva for listening and makes him feel like he is the only person who truly understands her. To deepen his emotional attachment, Mahe takes things further and becomes physically affectionate with him. She makes it clear that Arturo is standing in the way of their happiness and needs to be removed. From that point on, their relationship quickly becomes more intimate. Mage continues to draw Salva closer, and he becomes more invested in her. About a month before the murder, she visits him again while he is at work, continuing to flirt and build that connection. At one point, Salva's wife shows up, reminding him of a family event, which highlights the life he is risking. Once things settle down, Magia invites Salva to her apartment at a time when Arturo will be away in Gandia. Salva prepares himself carefully and goes to meet her. They spend time together, growing even closer. During one of these moments, Maher brings up a future trip Arturo has planned for their anniversary. She frames it as something she no longer wants, claiming she cannot stand him anymore. Salva suggests that she should leave the marriage, but Maya insists that Arturo would never agree to a divorce. At that point, she pushes Salva further. She makes him believe that the only way for them to be together is if Arturo is no longer in the picture. Slowly but surely, Salva gives in. In the end, he agrees to carry out the plan. Mage carefully lays out Arturo's daily routine. Every morning he leaves for work at 7:30, and his car is always parked in the basement. She explains that the best moment to act would be right as Arturo approaches his car. To make things easier, she even gives Salva the key to the basement entrance so he can get in unnoticed. At this point, Salva is completely drawn in. He even shows off photos of Madge to his friends, proudly talking about her as if she belongs to him. In his mind, he never imagined he could be with someone as young and attractive as her. Because of that, he becomes obsessed, willing to risk everything, including his own family. At home, he secretly keeps in touch with Madge, even calling her while preparing a birthday cake for his child. Madge then sets the timeline. She tells him she will be working a night shift on August 15th, which gives him the perfect opportunity to act the following morning. On the morning of August 16th, Salva puts the plan into motion. He parks his motorcycle a few blocks away from the apartment to avoid suspicion. He carefully avoids security cameras and uses the key to enter the basement. To make sure he leaves no trace, he wears gloves. Then at the exact moment Arturo is about to get into his car, Salva attacks. Armed with a kitchen knife, he repeatedly stabs him. Even after being severely wounded, Arturo tries to crawl forward, but he eventually collapses and dies. His body is later discovered that same afternoon. This is how the murder unfolds. Salva carries out the act, but in reality, he is nothing more than a tool. The true mastermind behind everything is Meiji, who orchestrates it all without ever getting her hands dirty. After the killing, Salva disposes of the basement key and the clothes he wore. He cleans the knife and buries it somewhere to hide the evidence. He even changes his WhatsApp status as a signal to May that the job is done. Later, he goes to see her at her relative's house where she is staying. That morning, the apartment is empty, giving them privacy. Salva feels proud of what he has done, believing he has proven himself. But suddenly, Maje breaks down in tears, acting as if she is overwhelmed with guilt over her husband's death. After calming her down, Salva agrees to keep some distance for a while, understanding that her emotions must be complicated. From his perspective, Arturo was a terrible husband, based entirely on what Maji had told him. Because of that, he feels no real guilt, believing he has saved the woman he loves. Before leaving, Salva gives Maje a disposable phone, just in case they need to communicate without being traced. He reassures her that everything is safe. She has a solid alibi from her night shift, and he has no direct connection to Arturo, which means no one would suspect him. Mai thanks him, still pretending to be shaken. But the moment Salva leaves, her behavior changes completely. Without hesitation, she messages Daniel and starts arranging to meet him that same night. Now the story returns to November 8, 2017, before Eva and Pedro manage to intercept the call between Maje and Salva. After 3 months of barely speaking, only crossing paths at the hospital, Salva can no longer hold back. He approaches Maje in a storage room, hoping to reconnect. But Maje keeps her distance, making excuses about being busy with work and stressing over the unfinished renovations in her apartment. Salva is completely in love at this point, so he quickly offers to help with the apartment renovations. The very next day, he starts working on the flooring and even buys groceries to fill Mage's fridge. He treats her life like it is his responsibility now. But everything changes when he checks her laptop and finds an email from Daniel. Inside are plane tickets to Rome, along with messages about their upcoming trip and affectionate exchanges. In that moment, Salva realizes the truth. He has been used and Maje is involved with someone else. Sensing that Salva's behavior has suddenly shifted, Maje calls him, this time using her personal phone instead of the disposable one. Salva tells her they need to stay apart. He already knows about her relationship with Daniel. He also reveals that a friend of his in the police has warned him that Maj is now a suspect and under investigation. Hearing this, Maj immediately panics. She had believed all along that she was completely safe from suspicion. Trying to stay calm, Salva asks what he really means to her. In response, Maj suggests they meet at a cafe later that morning so she can explain everything. What they do not realize is that Eva has already been listening to their conversation through the wiretap. As soon as she hears this, she quickly sends her team to the cafe. Surveillance begins, and at the same time, Pedro reports that Salva has been frequently contacting a specific number linked to a disposable phone. Not long after, the team spots Madge and Salva meeting. However, without enough evidence or proper authorization, they cannot make an arrest yet. All they can do is observe and take photos of the meeting. Eva then reports this progress to her superior, Bernardo. At this stage, Salva becomes the primary suspect, especially given his connection to Madge. With this development, Eva receives approval to tap Salva's phone as well. Meanwhile, Madge manages to regain control of the situation. Using her charm, she convinces Salva that she truly cares about him. At the same time, she claims she does not want to destroy his family. She explains that her relationship with Daniel is only for financial stability, while Salva should return to his wife and children. Reluctantly, Salva accepts this explanation, even though it clearly hurts him. Despite everything, he continues helping with the apartment renovation. The reality is even more painful, as Madge continues spending time with Daniel behind his back. Daniel even plans to buy a new apartment for them, one with a beautiful view, something that represents the life Madge really wants. Not long after, Eva receives a call from Arturo's younger brother Victor, asking about the progress of the case. Eva reassures him that they have gathered strong evidence and already have a suspect in mind, but she asks him to keep that information confidential. The next day, Maya travels to Gandia to meet Arturo's family and discuss the division of property, particularly the apartment Arturo owned. As a widow, she claims she is struggling financially, but her timing raises suspicion. Arturo's father points out that his son was murdered just 4 months ago, yet Maya seems more focused on assets than grief. Victor adds that the apartment cannot be sold until the case is fully resolved. He also mentions that the detectives already have a suspect. The moment she hears that, Madge is visibly shaken. For the first time, it starts to feel like everything she has done with Salva might finally be catching up to her. Not long after, Salva's phone is fully tapped, and every conversation between him and Madge is now being monitored by Eva and her team. In one of those calls, Madge reveals that she has just visited Arturo's family, and from what Victor said, the police already know who the killer is. That realization terrifies her. She begins to panic, worried that both of them are about to be arrested. Salva tries to calm her down. He convinces himself that the police will likely accuse the wrong person, probably someone with a criminal history. He also feels safe, since no officer has ever come looking for him. What makes it even more tragic is that Salva has already accepted the idea of Madge being with Daniel. He believes Daniel can give her the stable life she wants, even though he still loves her deeply. Meanwhile, Mary claims that she cannot stop thinking about Salva and insists that she will always love him. Hearing this, Eva and her team are left stunned by how twisted the situation really is. Eventually, Madge and Salva arrange to meet at a cafe on January 2nd, 2018, supposedly to celebrate the new year and talk things through. Before they arrive, Eva and her team get there first. They secretly plant a listening device inside a tissue box to capture everything. During the meeting, Salva advises Madge to act completely unaware if the police question her later. He believes that staying calm and pretending ignorance will protect them. Madge expresses her gratitude for everything he has done, further reinforcing his loyalty. With that recording, Eva finally has the evidence she needs. She immediately requests approval for their arrest. Once the warrants are issued, the team moves quickly. Salva's tracked down at the hospital, where he is ironically taking care of his own mother. At the same time, Madge is arrested just as she is about to leave for work with Daniel. She appears shocked, but there is no way out now. Both of them are taken into custody and brought in for questioning. Eva starts with Salva. At first, he insists that the police have nothing on him and that his arrest is unjustified. Eva does not reveal everything right away. Instead, she pushes him to admit whether he and Mari worked together to kill Arturo. Salva initially refuses to answer, but once Eva presents the recorded evidence, his resistance breaks. He finally confesses that he was the one who killed Arturo. However, he claims he acted on his own, not because Madge asked him to. He tries to downplay their relationship, saying they were nothing more than co-workers. But Eva confronts him with the truth. Arturo was never abusive, never violent, and everything Salva believed came from Mahe's manipulation. In that moment, the reality hits him. His expression changes as he realizes he has been deceived. He is left struggling with anger and disappointment, not just at Mahe, but at himself for sacrificing his family for her. Then it is Maya's turn. She puts on a sorrowful act as if the police have made a mistake. But Ava is not fooled. She makes it clear that Maya's performance might have worked on the men in her life, but it will not work here. Under pressure, Maj finally admits that Salva is the one who killed Arturo. Still, she insists that there was no plan between them. She tries to shift the blame entirely onto Salva, suggesting that he acted out of love after not getting the attention he wanted. To push things further, Eva carefully sets a trap. She asks Mai whether Salva killed Arturo on his own, without being asked. Madge immediately agrees, but that quick response only confirms what Eva already knows. Behind that calm expression, Eva is certain that Madge is the real mastermind. When Eva reveals the results of the wiretaps, Madge has nothing left to say. She goes silent. After the interrogation, the case moves to trial. At this stage, Salva changes his statement. He finally admits that the murder was not his idea. He explains that Madge was the one who planned everything and asked him to carry it out. In the end, both of them are sentenced to prison, but with different terms. Madge, as the one who orchestrated the crime, receives 22 years. Salva, who carried out the killing, is sentenced to 17 years. Even behind bars, their connection does not completely end. They continue exchanging letters. But over time, it becomes clear that Madge has moved on again. She starts a new relationship with another inmate, and reports later reveal that she even has a child from that relationship. So the moral of the story is, if someone has more backup lovers than a Wi-Fi router has saved passwords, maybe do not ruin your whole life trying to be their favorite clown.